Our second recommendation is to use a parameter file. It contains all of the parameters for a particular export or import job. It avoids the errors that can come from typing long, complex data pump commands on the command line. For instance, getting the correct escape character sequence can be challenging, especially when you must escape the escape characters. Also, imagine using transportable table spaces when you have to specify multiple data files. It's just easier to put all that into a command in the par file. Next, best practice is important to enable parallelism for export and import and use multiple dump files. This has a major effect on performance. For instance, parallelism determines how many indexes can get created simultaneously. If you don't set it, then only one data pump worker process will create all of the indexes. Parallel import and export of metadata was introduced in 12.2. On commodity x84, 64-bit hardware such as Windows and Linux, you should set the parallelism to 2 times the amount of physical cores and don't count hyperthreading. On AIX and Spark, it's a little different to determine as it depends on the hardware, so you should run tests to determine parallelism on these platforms. Now, when you use parallelism on or in your data pump job, you need to include a wildcard in the dump file name so export workers can write to multiple dump files simultaneously and avoid write locks that can cause dump file contention. Now, the %L wildcard allows for as many dump files as you might need. It expands file names to a 3-digit to 10-digit variable with name. You can still use the old %U wildcard for 1 to 99 dump files. It expands file names into a 2-digit fixed width incrementing integer that starts at 01 and ends at 99. By the way, another benefit of having multiple dump files, it's also easier to manage than one large dump file. For instance, if you needed to retransmit a file, perhaps due to corruption, it's a lot easier to transfer a small file than it is a complete large dump file. Now, even with parallelism enabled, under some circumstances, data pump workers might be idle. For instance, data pump might be using parallel query. In this case, one data pump worker process supervises multiple parallel query processes, but those all count against the total parallelism. If you have basic file lobs, then they do not allow parallel DML. And if you're using a network link job, the metadata is exported and imported serially. And as we mentioned, export parallelism requires multiple dump files. So if you only have one dump file, you're not going to see the benefits of parallelism. Now, the best practice that comes next is to always include diagnostics in your log file. If you run into an issue, Oracle always asks for log file diagnostics, so you may as well include them. Metrics records in the log file or records in the log file the number of objects that were exported or imported and the elapsed time. The log file time stamps messages in the log file. Metrics parameter was added in 11.2, and the log time parameter was added in 12.1. Together, they provide robust information to understand the performance of your data pump jobs by logging when the object was processed, the count of objects that were processed, by what worker, what was the elapsed time, and even what method was used to move the object. Last but not least, using interactive command mode can be quite helpful for your job. You can use it to change in mid-job the degree of parallelism, get job status, change the size of your dump files, the number of your dump files, to add more dump files, and start or alter tracing. You can also use it to restart a job that's been interrupted. The job restarts with no data loss or corruption. A job might be stopped due to an unexpected error or after you issued a stop job command, as long as the dump file set and the control table are still available and have not been altered in any way. There's two ways to start interactive command mode. either break from the data pump client by typing Control-C while data pump is logging into the console or logging to the console, or attach to a running job from another data pump session.